As soon as I heard that there would be no Giannis and no Kyle Kuzma in this game, in addition to no Kevin Porter Jr., I knew it was going to be tough. I lowered my expectations. My expectations were low, but oh my God.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What it do, y'all? Welcome to Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the industry. Your team every day. I'm Camille Davis, an NBA analyst with the Locked On Network and co-host of the Technical File podcast. Appreciate you more than ever for tuning in and making Locked On Bucks your first listen every single day, even with the L's continuing to pile up for this team. The podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with the college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. And I guess one could say the Bucks played their game, as we've seen over the last week and a half in particular with this team. And on today's show, I am going to highlight some individual performances that stood out in tonight's loss against the Magic. Whether they stood out for good or for bad, they stood out, so we're going to talk about it. Also going to take a look at what's next for the Bucks and really ask the question that at what point does the organizational shift from play-in chase to, hey, let's start evaluating for next year a little bit more. But first, I do want to just take a look at how this game was expected to be tough, because it was. No Giannis, no Kuz, no KPJ. You're down a lot of your main ball handlers against an aggressive defense. We know it's going to be tough. But it was somehow even worse than the lowest of expectations. And that's for a few different reasons. So let's start with the why it was worse than expected, right? The Bucks lost to the Magic 130-91. Do the quick math right there. That's a 39-point loss. 39-point loss for the Bucks in this game. And now the Bucks have lost 5 of their last 6 games. Can you guess the combined margin of loss for those 5 games that they've taken L to? Remember, Knicks, Bulls, Celtics, Hawks, and now Magic. And 4 of those 5 games are at home. So 4 real big blowout losses at home. Combined margin of loss between those 5 games, 136 points. 136. The Bucks lost by 29 to the Knicks. They lost by 23 to the Bulls. They lost by 27 to the Celtics. They lost by 18 to the Hawks. So, yay, at least it won 20. And then they lost tonight by 39 against the Magic. So I guess that just raises that margin of error from the last game against the Hawks higher. Because, I mean, what? That's crazy. And per Justin Garcia, as you know, host on here on Locked On Bucks, just a numbers man. He be digging into the information in the background. He pulled this fact, and I said, wait, what? Per Justin Garcia, this is the Bucks' 8th loss this season by 25 or more points, which is the most 25 plus point losses in franchise history. In franchise history, the previous record was 7, and that was the 07-08 team that did that. My first thought was like, dang, was it the team that Giannis played on his rookie year, that 13-14 team? No, that team lost 5 games by 25 or more points that season. Only 5. Only 5, right? And the fact that the Bucks have lost 8 games this season by 25 or more points, and you got 4 of them coming over the last week and a half when your back is really against the wall and you are really trying your hardest to get back in on this play-in race, right? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. There's no other word. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Second night of a back-to-back for both of these teams. It's not just like the Bucks were shorthanded in this game or something like that. Both of these teams, second night of a back-to-back. The Magic had some key guys out. You know, there was no Franz Wagner in this game. They didn't have Anthony Black. They didn't have Jonathan Isaac. Bucks didn't have Giannis. They didn't have Kuz. They didn't have Kevin Porter Jr. Of course, they didn't have TP. Haven't had him most of the season. And to be honest, I was surprised last night against Utah when I saw that Giannis played, because I said, oh, I doubt that he's going to play both nights of a back-to-back here coming off of an injury on a minutes restriction. Very curious to me that the game that they actually have him playing is the one against the Western Conference team that's gotten fined for tanking, the one that's one of the worst records in the league. But in the game where there's a tiebreaker at stake, even though the Magic are now the 6th seed in the East, so like your chances, that they ain't too great of catching Orlando. But still, for a team that organizationally we have heard, hey, this is the play-in chase. We're chasing playoffs. We're chasing playoffs. The players have said it. We heard the coach say it. We understand that's what they're trying to do. But this is the game you say Giannis for? I thought that was very interesting. I was wondering, like, is it because they know Orlando is a more physical team? The defense, they're just like, we don't want to get them beat up real quick. I don't know what the reason is behind it. But I did find it interesting. As soon as I saw Giannis in that Utah game last night, I said, oh, I guess he's not playing against Orlando, which also is why I didn't take much from that Jazz game. Like, different starting lineup. That was the 23rd different starting lineup. Today was the 24th different one for this Bucks team. So I can't make heads or tails of what this Bucks team is showing me against the Utah Jazz because they're playing the Utah Jazz. What does this jumbo lineup look like against better comp? Knew that wasn't going to happen tonight against Orlando because, again, second night of a back-to-back, things can get a little wacky. But I'm assuming now at this point that when the Bucks take the floor again on Tuesday against the Phoenix Suns, we'll see that jumbo lineup and some better comp than Utah. So we'll be able to make some more conclusions after that game. But still, this one was woo. Woo. When you score 15 points in the first quarter, 15 points in the third quarter, it's tough. They did score 40 in the second. But man, the flow of this game, a slow first quarter for both teams. Really, you could see that both teams were on the second night of a back-to-back. Bucks were down 10 after the first quarter. Honestly, when the Magic started the game off on a 7-0 run, I was like, this might be a sign of what this game is about to be. And then the offense woke up for both teams in the second quarter, where the Bucks scored 40 in the second, but the Magic scored 42. So at that point, it's like, all right, which team can get some stops? Who can get some stops? And the answer was Orlando, because the Milwaukee Bucks did that thing they tend to do in the third quarter, which is not really show up right away. So then the Magic were able to take what was a 12-point lead and blow that up into a 30-point lead. Like, when the third quarter kicked off and the Magic went on a 16-3 start, I said, okay, again, here we go. Then you go into the fourth quarter and you're down by 30 points. Bucks had 16 turnovers, but the Magic had 15 too. So you can look at the raw numbers and be like, hey, at least they kind of canceled out. But no, they didn't, because the Magic were able to do more off of the turnovers than the Bucks were. The Magic got 21 points off of the 16 Bucks turnovers. Meanwhile, the Bucks got 10 points off of the 15 Magic turnovers. In addition to that, the Magic lived at the free throw line. They shot 35 free throws. And this is not me saying, hey, the refs got it wrong. This is me pointing to the fact that the Magic were able to get whatever they wanted. They were able to get to the rim at will. The Bucks, not so much. So it's tough, especially when your 3-point shot's not falling. The Bucks shot 29.5% from three in this game, 13 of 44, while the Magic only made one more three than the Bucks. They made 14 of them things, but they only shot 33. So they shot 42% from the field. I mentioned there were some individual performances to take a closer look at. We're going to do that. Plus some words from head coach Doc Rivers about what we saw coming up right after this. But first, a word from our friends at Quo, because spring has a natural reset point. And if there's one thing that can quietly cost businesses some money, that's messy communication. Missed calls, scattered texts, no clear thread of who said what. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2 with over 3,000 reviews, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. It lets your entire team share one business number so you never miss a call, text, or opportunity. Plus, everything lives in one clean thread, calls, texts, voicemails. Plus, the whole team can see that conversation, so nothing falls through the cracks. It just makes your business feel more organized and more responsive. So make this the season of no opportunity and no customer slipping away. Try Quo for free and get 20% off of your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. This episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks because it's time to shoot your shot on PrizePicks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. PrizePicks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5 lineup. It makes every dunk, every assist, and every big play that much more exciting. PrizePicks is the #1 daily fantasy sports picks app, and it's super simple to play. It's easy. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your picks are right, then you can cash on in. I personally love the fact that you can build lineups across tons of sports: basketball, baseball, hockey, college basketball, soccer, golf, so much more. It's a really fun way to test your sports knowledge and stay locked into the action. So download PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right, and please gamble responsibly. Truly do appreciate you for tuning in, especially after losses like this. Time is valuable. You can't get that back. So spending it here with us on Locked On Bucks, even when I'm running solo, appreciate that. And for all the everydayers out there, all the sickos, take a look at the Everydayer Club as well. You can get Locked On Bucks with no ads, no interruptions, plus access to a members-only Discord, not just for the Bucks channel, but all NBA. You can check in on all the Locked On Discord channels there. $5 a month, $50 a year. Head to the link in the description or lockedonbucks.supercast.more. .com, lockedonbucks.supercast.com to learn more. And I mentioned talking about what we saw in this game, right? The Bucks had 4 different guys that finished in double-digit scoring in this game, but 3 in particular I thought were the bright spots, if you want to call anything a bright spot when you get blown out by 39 points. Bobby Portis, Cam Thomas, Jericho Sims. Those 3 in particular who I want to start with. Doc had some similar thoughts on who the players of the game were, so to speak. He didn't shout out Jericho Sims in this one, but I'm going to give Sims some love. But let's start, of course, with BP and with Cam.
Yeah, we played through him and Cam. That's why we had 40 points in the it was really the Cam and Bobby show. Really proud of Cam because they were going to trap him. You heard them the last time. We were prepared for that. And Cam did the right thing. He got off the ball and made the right decision. So that was probably the only bright spot of the game, honestly. And then Bobby, is now second in double-doubles, in NBA history. That's pretty impressive.
That is impressive. I do want to take a moment to just start there with Bobby Portis. Whenever you can make NBA history, move yourselves up in those leaderboards, like that's very, very important. It's very, very impressive. And I think he deserves that moment of a hand clap. Because Bobby Portis ain't no perfect basketball player, right? But when he does the things that he can do well, it can boost you. So shout out to BP for becoming or moving up into second place by himself for the most double-doubles off the bench all time in NBA history. And he also moved up in Bucks franchise history to the 5th spot in threes made. He took Pat Connaughton's spot in that 5 spot, which again makes me think about just how special that championship team was and the guys that were the core and the nucleus of it. Like when you look at that 3-point list, of course, you see Chris Middleton at the top, but you see Ray, of course, but you also see Brook Lopez, and now you see Bobby Portis, and you see Pat Connaughton. So just a little moment of a shout out to them. But BP finished the game, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. And a lot of that came in the second quarter for BP. As Doc mentioned, the second quarter was the big offensive quarter for the Bucks. Outside of that, wasn't really anything moving. Okay. In the second quarter, BP was perfect from the field. 5 of 5, 4 of 4 from 3. He had 14 of his 18 points in the second quarter. He was only able to get 1 shot attempt up in the 8.5 minutes or so that he played in the third quarter. He didn't score a point in the second half. Meanwhile, you had Cam Thomas, who finished with 17 points, 6 assists, and he provided some much needed offense in the second and third quarter for the Bucks, especially in the third quarter, where again, the Bucks only scored 15 points in the third quarter, and Cam scored 8 of them. 8 of them came from Cam Thomas, and he was getting blitzed a lot. Honestly, the Magic were just trying to trap any of the ball handlers as much as they could, and Cam did do a pretty good job of getting off the ball and just finding his offense where he could on a night where it was few and far between for many guys. And Jericho Sims, I thought Jericho had productive moments throughout this game, not even just looking at just the scoring part of it, because he scored 8 of his 10 points in the second quarter, all on dunks, all assisted by Kuzma Jang, who is someone else I do want to discuss. But I just want to shout to Jericho Sims because he has become such a critical part of how the Bucks play, with the ability to rebound, had 7 of them tonight, 2 assists, and also just his switchability, because the Bucks have seemingly leaned more into a switch-heavy defense over the last few weeks, especially with them going into more jumbo lineups. So I did want to shout out Jericho for his efforts in this game. Now, I mentioned Ooze. I thought he had a tough night shooting the ball, but I thought that he did a lot of other things well in this game. Being without Giannis and KPJ and Kyle Kuzma, again, you're short on ball handlers, where Ryan Rollins is your only real guard handler. You got Cam as well coming off the bench, and then you got Ooze, and that's a part of his game that I wasn't as familiar with until seeing him and watching him here on the Bucks. He handled the ball a lot, showed off his playmaking ability. Again, like I said, all those Jericho Sims points that came in the second quarter, Ooze was the guy behind it. He was finding them twice on lobs. Once was like a Jericho cut from the corner to get an easy dunk there, and Ooze found him on the move. So he is someone who I want to continue to see with the ball in his hand, see what he can do. Again, sometimes Ooze himself leaned into that ISO basketball, but when you're playing against aggressive defenses, sometimes that is what it is. It devolves into ISO ball, and he was trying to make something happen. Shots weren't falling, but was impressed with the ball handling and the playmaking ability. While the other main ball handler for the Bucks, Ryan Rollins, he struggled. He struggled in this game tonight against the Magic. Really ugly game for Ryan Rollins. 15 points on 12 shots, 1 assist, 3 steals, 5 turnovers, and turnovers have been a problem for Ryan throughout really the month of February. They've doubled from what he was giving you throughout most of the season. Doc Rivers made mention of the fact that he thought that maybe there's a little bit too much on Ryan Rollins' plate. Check out Doc's comments on Ryan's game tonight.
With that many other ball handlers out, it's going to be a lot tough on Ryan.
Yeah. It was too much on Ryan, honestly. Ooze was the other ball handler tonight. We just didn't have a lot to start. We didn't run our stuff, didn't run it well. They were up pressuring us. They were taking us out of stuff. They knew what we had as far as, it's one thing to have injuries. It's another thing when you have injuries to everybody who facilitates your offense, puts you in a tough spot.
It does. And Ryan did not perform in the moment when he had the opportunity to. It's a tough situation for him. Tough situation. Like when the third quarter opened, right? Ryan had 2 turnovers in the first 3 possessions. And then next thing you know, it's a 5-0 Magic run. And then a couple minutes later, Ryan forced turnover of his own where he stole the ball. But then the Magic had 3 bodies around Rollins while he was trying to start the break the other way. And they stole it right back. Next thing you know, he's on the ground, just laid out, and the ball's going the other way. A real tough night for Ryan. And Ryan Rollins is somebody who there's been a lot of debate between Ryan and Kevin Porter Jr. And I've said multiple times, this team is going to need both of them to be successful because they just don't have many ball handlers and guys to kind of initiate, right? And with that, one thing that we heard from Doc Rivers going into the season was that Kevin is more of the point guard, Ryan's more of a combo guard, right? So when he's getting these reps in with the ball in his hands, they're very important for his development to continue. But again, he's being put in positions that he's not necessarily as comfortable in. And you can see that. You can see the difference of how Ryan handles the ball pressure over Kevin. right? That's just one area in their games where Kevin, he can handle that a little bit better than what Ryan can at this point in his game. And that's not to say that Ryan can ever get there. It's just remarking on where he is right now. And right now, the month of February going into March here now, turnovers have been a big problem for Ryan. But he's going to keep getting them reps to kind of see where he can develop into. And there's nothing more important than on-court reps. There are a couple more guys who I want to talk about here. Definitely want to talk about AJ Green, who found himself back into the starting lineup tonight after moving to the bench for the first time this season for Kyle Kuzma. But again, no Kuzma tonight. So AJ's back in the starting lineup, and just what a tough stretch of basketball has been for AJ. So I want to talk a little bit more about AJ, a couple of notes on a few other guys, but also taking a look ahead for what the Bucks have ahead of them. And when does it make sense to actually start preparing for next season? So we'll talk about that right after this. But first, a word from FanDuel, because college basketball is non-stop. You got big games, you got tight spreads, you got momentum swings every single night. So from early tip-offs to late night West Coast shootouts, there is always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your need. Okay. You can also mix spreads and totals and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe or go bold. Ride with the team that you've been following all season, or pick someone new. It's your parlay, your style, and now with even more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel. Play your game, and please remember to gamble responsibly. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and then the one position that you still have to fill is sitting open. So when the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs, matter of fact, and they help you reach the people who actually fit what it is that you're looking for: skills, expertise, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. So when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Head over to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, wrapping up the conversation on just some players that stood out. I mentioned wanting to talk about AJ Green, and of course, and then just a couple of short bars here for some other players. But another tough night for AJ Green. Like, AJ was on the court in the fourth quarter during garbage time, still racking up those minutes. Like, Gary Harris didn't play at all in this game, right? So it's not as if they didn't have any other bodies they could have put out there on the court in place of AJ Green come garbage time. But to me, that came off as, listen, AJ got to find his rhythm. He has to try to find his rhythm. So let's keep him on the court. Let's get him the reps, and let's see if we can kind of turn this poor shooting around that we've seen really since All-Star break. Really, honestly, consistently since he came back from injury. Like, he's been trying to find it. But the thing with shooters is, like, you shoot to get hot and you shoot to stay hot. So, like, shooters got to shoot. I don't care if you do go 0 for 10. I'd rather an 0 for 10 night than an 0 for 2 night where you just stopped shooting and you got scared along the way. Tonight, it was a 1-8 night for AJ Green. Plus, he had 2 turnovers early in this game too that were poor. Putting the ball in his hands a little bit more, especially against this aggressive defense. It was tough for him. But again, like I mentioned, I'm not necessarily mad at that. If he proves like, hey, this is something I cannot do, then you don't have him do it no more. But with the way this season is going, and I'm gonna get into a little bit more later, like let him get the reps. Let's see what he can do. And if the answer is nothing, then you know the answer for sure. But again, development is important. So he has not been playing some good basketball recently. I'm sure when everybody's healthy again, he moves right back into that bench role that he recently started to occupy after the Jazz game. But he got to find it. And the only way you find that shot is playing through it. So he got to just keep hooping through it. Hoop through it, AJ. Keep shooting. Figure it out. Also, just real quick, Pete Nance, he was all right. Gary Trent Jr. looked like Gary Trent Jr., especially this season, Gary Trent Jr. And Miles Turner. Disappointing game for Miles Turner, disappointing season for Miles Turner. Not exactly what was expected of him. No rebounds for Miles Turner in this game. 3 points, 2 turnovers, 3 fouls, 1 assist, 1 of 6 from the field in 23 minutes. Just needs to be a larger conversation around that Miles Turner acquisition. But before we do that, I'm going to say that for when I have someone else to talk to and bounce him off to. But of course, I know y'all gonna let me know how y'all feel about that acquisition in the comments, plus the AJ Green stuff, plus the Ryan Rollins stuff. So yeah, definitely let me know in the comments. But what's next for the Bucks, right? The Bucks are now 9 games under 500. 9 games under 500. And for a team, again, that's trying to chase the play-in, hopefully a chance at the postseason, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Now, as I record this, the Hornets are still playing. They're currently losing to the Phoenix Suns in the 4th quarter. So, hey, you might get some quote-unquote help from the Hornets. But even still, if the Hornets do lose tonight, they'll just drop to 32-33. So the Bucks will be 3 games behind them in the loss column. But I mean, at this point, it's starting to get dark. It's starting to get real dark for this Bucks team that is 4-6 in their last 10. You got the Hawks who are putting together some wins. You got the Hornets, as we mentioned, been putting together some wins. The Magic have been putting together some wins. The Heat have been putting together some wins. The Sixers have been falling. That's a little interesting. The Sixers are now 34-29. Fell into the play-in spot actually now. So now your 4 teams that are in the play-in spot are the Heat, the Sixers, the Hawks, and the Hornets, with the Bucks first team on the outside looking in, still trying to find a way into that dance. And when you look at what's next for the Bucks, I think I'm at a point now seeing this team compete, seeing this team, how they operate. I said this before, this ain't no championship team. Okay. I was hoping for a minute there, like, hey, maybe we can get into the playoffs, be a fun first round team, get some playoff experience for some young dudes. I don't even necessarily see that. But my question is, when will the organization see that and call it on this season? And call it on this season and say, hey, we are fully focused on doing evaluation and figuring out what we have. I've already said, I think that's the way that this team should be playing for the rest of the season. That should already be the goal. But I'm just curious when organizationally that does become the goal, when you see Giannis not playing, when you see, other guys being shut down, and you're seeing some of these other guys to get more minutes, get more tick. But the Bucks' next 4 games, so they're scheduled for the next week. Tuesday, they play Phoenix at home. So it's the last game of this current 5-game homestand for the Bucks. Thursday, they head to Miami, play the Heat. Huge game in the standings count. The Heat already are up 2-0 in that season series against the Bucks, so they can't really do too much headway there. And then they have the Hawks, who they're currently tied 1-1 with in the season standings. So this game will determine the tiebreaker. That game is Saturday, the 14th in Atlanta. And that's the first night of a back-to-back for the Bucks, because they come home and then they play the Pacers on Sunday. So I think you'll have your definitive answer, really, of like, where is this team? Like, you might be mathematically alive, but what are we really playing for here? And I think organizationally, or at least I can say, I hope organizationally too, that after this week, they really do make the call on what it is that they're looking to do and how they're looking to end the season out. The Bucks need to win games themselves, but they also still need some help. So a couple of games to watch over the next couple of days. If that's your cup of tea at this point, you might just already be like, dog, they just need to lose. So I ain't listen. You might be going to these games cheering for the teams ahead of the Bucks just to make the organizational decision happen quicker. But you got a Sixers, Cavs tomorrow, Monday, or today if you're listening on Monday. And then Tuesday, you have Grizzlies at Sixers. You have Wizards at Heat. You have Mavs at Hawks. You have Hornets at Blazers. So those are some games to keep an eye on while the Bucks themselves are gearing up against the Phoenix Suns on Sunday. But again, let me know what you think about the organizational decision the Bucks need to make. Again, I think they should already be in evaluation mode going forward. Go ahead, let AJ Green dribble a little bit more. Let's see how that turns out. Let's Go ahead, let Ryan dribble. Let's see how he can handle the doubles. Let's see. You also got to have some, safety valves in there for them to, you know what? That's a conversation for a whole nother pod. But I thank you for tuning into today's podcast. So make sure that you subscribe, you follow Locked On Bucks, you drop those 5-star reviews on all the audio platforms. I'm losing my voice at this point, so it's really, really time to go. Make sure you check out the Everydayer Club as well. Link in the description. You get Locked On Bucks ad free members only Discord access as well. For those of you who are watching on video, going to send you over to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On the audio side, make sure that you make that second listen of yours, NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Appreciate you for tuning in to Locked On Bucks, even after the tough losses. Make sure you keep it locked in on Locked On Bucks.